What are you really passionate about? What gets you excited to get out of bed every day? In the case of Mike Swenson, I can unequivocally answer that question without hesitation. He is all about helping others achieve time and financial freedom through real estate and investing smartly in the industry. He's the CEO and founder of Elite Advantage Team, where they know what it takes to create the best experience for their buyers and sellers every time. Their priority is to help you sell your house for the most money in the least amount of time with as few hassles as possible. And when it comes to the real estate investing side, Swenson hosts a podcast entitled The Real Freedom Podcast, with a mission of helping people build real estate, leveraged time freedom, and help to supplement their finances through real estate investing opportunities. Swenson is a networker of the highest regard. He loves networking to put people in the right spaces and places, whether it be connecting with individuals, opportunities, and conversations, all in an effort to help them leverage their power in the real estate and life market. And if you need further proof of the power of real estate investing and why Swenson is so passionate about it, well, you would have to look no further than Gallup and Investopedia, which found in May of this year that the majority of Americans still believe that real estate investing is the best long-term investment compared to other types of assets. And lucky for the rest of us, Swenson found some time in his extraordinarily busy Minnesota-based schedule to join me this week to have a conversation about the power of real estate investing, generating generational wealth through real estate, and the importance of forming and cultivating relationships, and the power it has to positively affect every aspect of our professional and everyday life. Get ready for an energetic conversation about real estate, football, and everything in between. Because I'm Kevin McShad, and I'm ready to say, let's have this conversation. Mike, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program. And I'm super excited to talk to you this afternoon all about investing in real estate. Great to see you this afternoon, and thank you for a few minutes, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now, Mike, I know that you've been in real estate for a very long time, and you found your way into even becoming a landlord by accident in 2010. So I'm wondering if you could tell me about who you are, where you come from, and what makes you so fabulous, my friend?
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, I've been in real estate, full time since 2014. I tell people, yeah, I was an accidental landlord in 2010. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Prior to that, I worked for a nonprofit for 10 years, kind of did operations and finance stuff and had some investment properties during that time. I fixed up a few properties. And then I got into real estate on a large team. I was in an admin role, and we grew that team to about 50 agents doing 600 closings a year. And then I started my own team in 2020, and quickly that shifted to working and specializing on working with investors. And so I'm really excited about kind of the investor space, helping investors, helping agents become investors. And so that's kind of been where I've spent most of my time the last couple years. And then I also do a podcast myself talking about investing in real estate. So that's my brief background, I guess.
Yeah, and now you're currently the owner and the founder and CEO of Elite Advantage Team, which is an investor-focused real estate team. So tell me all about your day job and why you're so enthralled with it, my friend.
Yeah. So for me, I looked at, for me to build the wealth that I wanted to build, or to kind of build on my financial future, I knew that investing in real estate was something that I wanted to do. And for a lot of people, they do it on the side, right? And so me being in the real estate space, I realized, sometimes people, so I work with a lot of investors that might work a second job and they invest in real estate on the side as their kind of their second job or their side hustle or whatever that might be. And I thought, well, if I just spent my day doing the stuff that a lot of other people are spending time doing at night, I get a chance to learn faster and kind of double dip my time. And so I tell people that, kind of what most people's night job is, investing in real estate or learning how to invest in real estate. I'm just doing that during the day too. So it allows me to find properties for investors. And at the same time, if I find a property for me that's a fit, or somebody that I know that's a fit, I kind of get to be more strategic with my time. And so that's why I decided to move from traditional residential real estate to just specializing on working with investors. So have been doing that for the last couple years. And yeah, it's people from all over. Actually, most of my investors are out of state, so they're not in Minnesota where I'm located, but some of them are. And I just help them establish what their goals are, what they're looking to accomplish through investing in real estate. And then I tell people that I'm just the kind of the property matchmaker. So you tell me what you're looking for, and I'll go try to network and find properties that fit your criteria. And hopefully we can find a fit. And then on top of not just helping them purchase the property, finding kind of what's the strategy of how they're going to manage that property. Because, being an agent and just selling them a property or helping them buy a property is one thing. Being able to have a plan in place where they know what they're going to do with that asset long-term is really important. So I work with them because I want to build long-term relationships with people that want to continue to work with me, continue to find investment properties. And so I kind of have a long-term approach to the clients that I work with.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike, just before we move on, buddy, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about all the football helmets behind you because, buddy, I originally went to school to become a sports reporter. So with the football season now less than 100 days away, tell me about your love of sports as well, buddy.
Yeah. So I've grown up loving sports. My parents had me participate in a lot of different sports. So I was given a lot of different opportunities from baseball, football, basketball, wrestling, swimming, track, golf. Were all sports that I played competitively growing up in different fashions. And some I did for a year or two, some I did for longer. But I just really love sports and going to sports. And so we did that as a family growing up. I married a wife who was a big sports fan herself. And so a lot of our time was, going to Minnesota sports games. So we like going to mainly the Twins and Vikings games, sometimes Timberwolves games a little bit. The funny thing is we live in Minnesota, they call it the state of hockey, but I'm not really a hockey fan. So I don't know much about hockey, even though we live in Minnesota. But yeah, I just love attending sporting events. Our kids in different sports. So I've got 3 boys, 11, 9, and 5 years old. And so we go attend their sports functions. And so the collection that you see behind me is just, memorabilia that we've picked up along the way. Some helmets of some different players that are autographed. And so I just love kind of sports and collecting. I was a collector of sports cards growing up and some memorabilia growing up. And so what's behind me is just a little bit of the collection, but there's other stuff hanging on the walls and whatnot in the rest of our house too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have to tell you, Mike, we have a friendly rivalry developing, my friend, because I'm a Lions fan, and I'm over the moon that last year was their first winning season in 5 years, buddy. So we have a friendly rivalry. I'll have to look you up when the Lions play Minnesota so we can put some interesting wagers on the game, buddy.
Yeah, I always tell people, I follow Minnesota sports because it's what I grew up in. And so, I all the teams, for better or worse, we as a Minnesota fan, we were fortunate to have 2 World Series titles when I was 5 and 9 years old. And then we haven't won anything since then in any other major sports. And so it is what it is. I can certainly empathize with a Lions fan, and I'm really excited. I love Dan Campbell. I think he's an exciting coach, somebody that they would love to play for. And I think the Lions are going to do great this year. And at the same time, I'm also excited to have TJ Hawkinson on our team as well, because he did a fantastic job for us. But I still feel like, the Lions have a lot of great upside. I'm really excited to see what they do this year.
Well, it'll be a friendly thing to watch for sure. And the Twins are in first place, so that must make you feel good, right?
They are, but if they were in any other division, they would not be in first place. So we are the worst first place team in the Major League Baseball. But we always find a way. I tell people we keep it close enough where some team, usually about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through the year, realizes, hey, we can catch the Twins, and then eventually they pass us. So we do well the first half to 2/3 of a year, and then we kind of run out of steam. So we'll see what happens this year.
Hey, on my end of the equation, Mike, I get living in winter. I get Detroit sports radio, and they always tell me the Tigers always have a chance for contention because they're in the worst division in baseball. So we have that in common as well, right?
Yep. Everybody has a chance in the AL Central. That's for sure.
That's exactly right. And Mike, I'm also curious to ask you about how investing in real estate can help build generational wealth, because I think it's a great way to accomplish that goal. Would you agree with that?
I do. And, I think for so many people, they might discount even considering investing in real estate or thinking about it because they think, well, I don't have the money and I don't know what to do. And so part of what I try to do is show people there's a lot of ways that you can get started. And I think for some people, it's just realizing what that first step is and figuring out how to make that first step is going to light up the next step. So for me, kind of going back to, we didn't get a chance to cover this in 2010, how I became an accidental landlord was my wife and I purchased our first house after we got married. And shortly, I tell people we were excited to buy it because it was a 2-year-old townhouse, and we bought it for $2,000 less than the people before us bought it for 2 years prior, right? So we're getting it for less than what they bought it for. It had appraised for more than that as we were going through the purchase process. And so people said, hey, you have instant equity in your home. Congratulations, you got a good deal. And then over the next 2 years, I watched as the market completely tanked and the value of my townhouse was half of what I bought it for. And so right out of college, newly married, my wife was still getting her master's degree, and we were completely underwater on our home. And so I kind of thought about a few different things because I'm a financial analyst mindset, right? I like to analyze things. And I said, if we stay in this property, we're not going to be able to sell it for anything more than we bought it for at least 8 years, probably more like 10 to 12 years. So we're either just going to stay here, or we have to figure out a way that we can maybe rent it out and do something else. And so curiously, I think this is something that's helpful that I advise people to do is just be curious, ask questions to learn more. So I reached out to a lender And I said, hey, is it even possible for us to try to rent this out and then go buy another property? Well, because property values were so low, we could get a good deal on the buy side. And so he said, you know what, running the numbers, you're like right on the edge of what you guys could do. You could afford to get a second home if you were able to rent this out. So I said, okay, talk to my wife. We kind of put feelers out there to see if somebody would want to rent their townhouse or rent our townhouse. And she found a coworker who they were going to move back. They lived out east. They were in Minnesota for a couple years. They didn't want to buy anything. And they said, well, we'd be happy to rent with you for at least a year. And then maybe that frees us up to move back home after we get done with this job. And so I said, okay, great. So we put together a lease, and knowing that I had a tenant that we liked because we'd hung out with them on the side. It was another couple about our age. We had a great first step. So I said, okay, if I can rent this out for this amount, it didn't make any money. It just covered our mortgage payment. And we rented that out, and then they moved on. And then I found another tenant. They lived there for a year, found another tenant. And then I had somebody that ended up staying there for 7 years, which was fantastic. And so I was able to take a risk on the buy side, knowing that I had that property to be able to continue to pay the mortgage. So fast forward, we ended up selling that property just this last year in January of 2022. In that time, the value recovered. Over the course of the 12 years that we owned that and rented it out, the mortgage got paid off, or paid down. I shouldn't say paid off, paid down. And we were able to cover our expenses. And so it's those little things over time that could make a big difference. So going back to your question about generational wealth, it's understanding that there's great things with finding a rental property. You get rent, you might make cash flow every month. You have tenants paying off a mortgage, and you get appreciation. And then there's tax deduction benefits that you get as well being a landlord. And so all those little things added up over time, doing this for 5, 10, 15, 20 years can make a large, substantial difference on your financial health long term.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Mike, when we look at real estate investing, I'm fascinated to ask you, why do you think it's becoming more popular? And secondarily to that, real estate investing isn't for everyone. So when you want to get into real estate investing, I'm wondering sort of the top 3 or 4 questions you should ask yourself before diving into the pool of real estate investing.
Yeah, so I think there's a learning curve that's there. So like you said, it's not necessarily for everybody. Why do people like it? It's because of those things that I mentioned previously. There's cash flow, there's appreciation, there's tax benefits. And so what we do is we have a deal calculator where we take a potential deal out there, whether it's single family or multifamily, and we put the numbers in to show here's what can happen over time. And we show how your mortgage balance can go down. We show how you could potentially make appreciation. And so what we're trying to do is there's such a mystery around investing in real estate. We're trying to give you some facts or give you some numbers to help quantify it. I think a lot of people like real estate because, number one, it's the way that most people have become millionaires over time. Number two, I think because it's tangible. If I bought stock in a company, and I still invest in stocks, but somebody at that company does something dumb, right? And their stock price drops by 10 or 15 or 20%. I have no control over that, right? I don't have control over the decisions being made, the board being made. Now, sometimes I can vote, but at the same time, I don't necessarily have control over that. If I invest in Bitcoin, right? That's another popular thing. There's lots of great opportunity out there, but I think there's still something about the tangible piece of real estate. It's a piece of land. There's only a certain amount of land out there. There's only a certain amount of houses or properties on land. And so I think people like that it's something that I can touch and feel and drive to and see. And then for a lot of people that I work with that are investing, they want to help people. They want to help provide a good house, a good rental property that somebody can live in with a landlord that cares for them. Now, there's a lot of bad landlords out there too, but at the same time, I found a general love that people have for providing housing because it's so very important. And so if I can provide good quality housing at a good price for people, and then it allows me to make money on the back end, great. And so I think that's kind of a piece of what I would say why people like that. And then in terms of kind of the generational wealth, like I said, it's kind of these small things over time eventually snowball and grow. And so as you build out equity in property, you can take that equity and get another property and get another property. And so it's something where if you build up cash flow, that cash flow can come in every month and help pay your bills, versus saving up for a retirement account that you can't utilize that money until you're of retirement age.
Yeah, and Mike, I'm wondering your thoughts on a general sense on real estate, the state of real estate, and whether average Americans are being priced down or given opportunities to enter the market. I know here in Windsor, for example, a lot of people are moving from Toronto to Windsor because of the cost of living, which then drives up the prices for houses in my hometown because you have a larger pool of people buying for the same lot of properties. So I'm curious to ask you, what do you think real estate in general has become too expensive for the average American, or do you think it's just about right? Well, what are your thoughts there?
I think affordable housing is a huge challenge out there. In Minnesota, when you go to build a new property, there's a lot of different codes that have been improved, which come at a higher ticket for costs. And so I actually had a guest on here on my podcast a month or two ago. His name was Mike Kading, and he talks about they build apartment buildings, and he talked about his mission is to try to build apartment buildings at 20 to 40% less than the average apartment building as a way to help combat affordable housing. And so he talks about his mission and what he's doing to try to make buildings more affordable. But yeah, the reality is that if I want to build something new codes, new laws and all the rules that you have to follow that are in place, it becomes expensive. And so yeah, it definitely is a challenge to find good affordable housing, and it's something that's going to continue to be a challenge in the future. We are not building housing as fast as we need to keep up with the demand. And then with what's happening right now with higher interest rates, it's making people not want to sell their houses because they've got these great interest rates that they got, 2, 3, 4 years ago. And so that puts another strain on housing. So I agree, affordable housing is a challenge, and it's something that we have to continue to work with, because not everybody is going to be able to afford a house. So how can we provide good quality rental properties for people at a rate that they can afford, and yet still allows the owner to be able to make money, or at least break even, not lose money on the property? Yeah, it definitely is a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike, I will also tell you another challenge that I'm seeing in the real estate market, especially, is the lack of accessible housing for folks with disabilities. So I was born with what's called spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. My simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my lungs to walk normally, and I just recently accepted an invitation to be on the board of directors here in Windsor for Habitat for Humanity, Windsor, Essex. And one of the reasons they asked me to join the board of directors was they wanted someone with lived experience with disability to advise them when they build houses and go out into the marketplace to market to people that look and sound like I do. So tell me about the challenge of making sure that we have housing for folks with disabilities to either rent, buy, or invest in, because it's a real challenge, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think kind of going back to increased costs, you're absolutely right. If we're gonna build something new, um, having an elevator, having ramps, having wider hallways, having proper handrails for folks. There's a lot of additional costs, and so yeah, that comes at an additional cost to the person building it, an additional cost to the person owning it, and then they need to recoup that cost in some way by charging rent to the tenant. And so yeah, I agree. We want to have housing that people can live in. And then the other reality is if we're not building housing fast enough to meet the demand, then we have to retrofit the properties that we currently have to meet the needs of people as well. And so, yeah, adding ramps, trying to widen hallways, trying to, do the things that we need to do to provide accessible housing for everybody. Yeah, that's an additional challenge. And the downside is, somebody has to pay for that. Somebody's either eating that cost or paying for that cost or incurring that cost. And so then to find ways to continue to rent it back to people at affordable rates, it absolutely is a challenge.
Yeah, and Mike, going back to the podcast that you host, it's called the Real Freedom podcast. I know it has a mission of helping those who listen to it build their real estate portfolio while also leveraging their freedom and time and finances through real estate opportunities. So I'm wondering if you can tell me about the show and the mission behind it as well.
Yeah. So when I got into real estate full time in 2014, I thought that realtors and investors were making money hand over fist. I just assumed that if you're in real estate, you're probably making a ton of money. And what I learned quickly is there's a lot of people that really struggle day to day as their job. Even margins for investors are a lot tighter than I would have imagined. And it is a challenge for people. Now, there's a certain section of people out there that do it really well. They make a lot of money. Absolutely. But most people are still struggling trying to figure out how to get by. And what I tell people is, if I were on Wall Street, right, and I had inside information to be able to help me make money on a stock, and so I bought a stock because I had this stock tip. If somebody found out about that, I would get arrested for insider trading, right? I can't do that in Wall Street because it's frowned upon, right? It's illegal. Yet in real estate, I have access to all the tools, the knowledge, and the information that I need to make good financial decisions. I can access the MLS. I can access owner information. I can network with great lenders and great property managers and title companies and everything. And so I can utilize the tools being in real estate full time to my own benefit and to the benefit of helping others. And yet so many people in real estate don't know what to do. There's agents that have been in the business for 10, 15, 20 years, and they're like, Mike, how would I get started investing in real estate? And I'm like, well, you've been in the industry for 20 years. And so Real Freedom, so it's REL Freedom, and the REL stands for Real Estate Leverage Freedom. So in my podcast, I interview people and talk about different ways that people can build time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. So you have real estate agents, you have real estate investors, but you also have people, for instance, that might work. I just had an interview that I did with somebody that helps people on the administrative side in the real estate industry. And she's building a company and growing and building time and financial freedom by helping others in real estate. So there's a lot of different ways that you can find time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. And so my show, I interview different people doing different things. And the whole point of it is I want a listener to come out or to listen to an episode and say, oh, wow, that person that was on really fits with what I'm excited about, what my skills and abilities are about, and maybe my path looks like that. So trying to highlight different ways that people can build time and financial freedom to inspire others and encourage others that they can do it too. Because I know, as we mentioned earlier, so many people feel like I don't know enough or I don't know how to get started in real estate. And so I'm trying to break down those barriers open up those waves of communication where people can figure out, oh, here's a way that I could do that myself and create generational wealth because somebody else on this show, that was their path, and I can, that resonates with me, right? There's so many things in real estate that I wouldn't want to do or I don't like doing. And so I'm trying to find a path for somebody that they're excited about, they can follow that, and it's going to help them out in the long run.
Yeah, and I wanted to build on the thing you just mentioned about real estate agents becoming investors, and you might look at that as a natural fit, as you just mentioned. But tell me the real advantages of the value of experience when real estate agents decide to become investors, because it can be a natural fit. So tell me, why should real estate agents really look into the prospect of investing?
Yeah, because I think so many agents are busy chasing the next closing, right? And so it's kind of this never-ending treadmill of, okay, I got that closing, now I got that closing, now I got that closing. And they end up working for a long time and realize that they don't have anything more to show for it than the income that they had. And they say, like, you're only as good as your last deal, you're only as good as your last year. January 1st comes around, everything that I did last year in real estate in terms of closings is kind of wiped away, and you're back at square one. And so what I'm trying to help them see is, if I pick up a property here, and then maybe a year or two or three down the road, I pick up another property, and then maybe a year or two or three down the road, I pick up another property, or maybe somebody decides they get another property every year, you're slowly starting to build things where the wind is at your back versus feeling like you're running into the wind financially every year. And so it's kind of like planting a garden, right? I'm going to plant a seed and eventually something's going to pop up, and I'm going to go plant another seed and eventually something's going to pop up. But I think agents think short-sighted. They're too busy thinking about their next closing or their next deal that they forget about these things that you can be doing to build wealth. And all of a sudden now I'm 5, 10, 15 years down the road in my real estate job, and I don't have anything more to show for it. And then you hear real estate agents say, well, I just love my clients, I'm going to work with clients till the day that I die. And I say, well, you might do that because you love it, but I think they're really kind of hiding behind the fact that they didn't plan ahead for their financial future. And so they're like, well, I love working with clients, I'm going to work with them till the day that I die, because I don't have a plan B. I haven't invested anything. I haven't planned ahead. And so that's why I'm jokingly saying I'm just going to work with clients till the day that I die.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, my friend, tell me your keys to growing a real estate portfolio, and what do you think the value is in learning how to be consistent in this industry?
Yeah. I think number one, if you haven't started, you got to figure out how to get started. For me, like I said, it was because I had this townhouse that I was, completely underwater on, $80,000 underwater. I had to figure something out, right? And so my back was against the wall, and that's what helped me come up with a solution. For some people, it's not going to look that way, but you're not going to be, I think about it as an education, right? I can go to school for 4 years, get my degree. That degree is going to help me get a job and make money in the future. Real estate investing is kind of like that. You're not going to necessarily know everything right away, so you got to get started. And I also use another analogy. It's like going to the gym, right? If I went to the gym, or if I wanted to start working out, if I wanted to run, or if I wanted to do something to get in better shape, I'm not going to start right away. I'm not going to start big. I'm going to start with something small. And so same thing for real estate investing. I want to start small. What's something that I can do? Maybe I partner with somebody else on a deal, or I start by renting out a room that I already have in my house. I can rent out a room. Or I can partner with somebody who can rent out a room. And so I really say it's kind of like pushing a snowball down the hill. You got to get started, but once you push it down the hill, it's going to gain momentum and it's going to grow faster and faster and faster. So you kind of got to figure out, like, how do I get started? based on the amount of money that I have, based on the friends and family that I have, that I can figure out a way to put together a deal somehow. But it's kind of just figuring out how to get started. And then everything's going to blossom and grow off of that. Just like my 4-year education and whatever I choose, if I went to college or whatever trade school I did, I'm not going to know everything right at the beginning. So you just got to figure out how to get in the game, how to get started, and then your learning is going to grow from there.
Yeah, and Mike, to that point, I'm curious to note if you have a preference between either flipping a real estate property or investing in it as a landlord. What do you think are the differences between the two? And before you get into this line of work, what sort of questions, whether you want to be a flipper or a landlord, should you be asking yourself?
Yeah, so what I tell folks is, and this was an analogy that I picked up at a conference a couple of years ago, and I share it, and I really love it. So this isn't my original idea, but I say, think about it like a triangle. So on a triangle, you've got 3 sides. And so one side is time, one side is money, and one side is expertise. And you're going to do a self-evaluation of where am I at in each of these 3 areas. If I'm not in real estate, I don't necessarily have a lot of expertise. If I am looking to do this, I might have some time that I can give to it, and maybe I have some money, or maybe I don't have any money. So what you want to do is you want to then build relationships and build partnerships with people who are kind of weak where you're strong, right? So if I don't have any expertise, I might want to latch on to somebody who has some expertise at the beginning. If I want to flip, I haven't flipped yet. Maybe I go find somebody who's done it before and say, hey, can you show me how to do this? A lot of people talk about earning sweat equity, right? Like, I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I can put in a lot of time to help fix up a house or to help do, some of the busy work to find people to help fix up a house. I can give that. And then on the money side, depending on how much money you have or don't have, it's a little less relevant at the beginning. You probably want to find people that have some money, and then you do a self-assessment, and then you find people who are, like I said, kind of weak where you're strong. And then it really becomes a great win-win scenario, because where you're strong, they're weak. Where they're strong, you're weak. And so for me, I think, okay, I'm in real estate full-time and I work with investors full-time. I have expertise, right? Because real estate is my full-time job, I have some time to give, but I'm also busy helping other clients, so I may not necessarily have a lot of time to give. And then for me, if I want to find people to grow more quickly, I'm looking for people who maybe have money, but they don't have as much time and they don't have as much expertise, and that creates a win-win scenario. So for people starting out, kind of look at where you're at, what you have to contribute, and then try to find people that fit into that. And so, like I said, if it's flipping, find people who have flipped before. If it's buy and hold, maybe find somebody who's done that before. And the nice thing is you can always reach out to me and I can introduce you to people that maybe have done that too, right? If you don't even know anybody that's done it before, maybe I can point people in the right direction. And so I really just want to be a resource to help people. But it's all about getting started. It's all about kind of taking those first steps. And flipping, as an example, there's a lot of risk on the line of, you kind of have one shot at this, right? I'm going to buy it at a certain price. I'm going to do something to fix it up, and then I'm going to sell it. Well, what if something happens in the middle there that eats up that margin that you thought you were going to have? And so we did a flip property a couple of years ago, and we didn't make any money on it. And so I spent, 2 or 3 months of time, 2 or 3 months away from my family. And at the end of the day, we didn't have anything to show for it, because we didn't make money on the flip, because there were unexpected things that came up. So I also talked to people about having a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. So in this particular case, we had partnered with an investor that we were just going to, cash them out and move on to another property. Instead of flipping, what if you did just buy it, fix it up, and then rent it out? Well, now if I rent it out, if I didn't make any money on the buy and the fix up, I can either make money on the rent. I can make money on they're helping to pay down the mortgage. I can make money on real estate as a whole tends to appreciate over time. And so there's a few different factors, and the tax advantages, like I mentioned. So now there's a few other buckets that could help me make money on this deal versus a flip is just buy, fix up, sell. And then the other thing with flips is you have to pay capital gains taxes, which is really expensive too. So the profit you're making, a lot of it gets eaten up in taxes. So there's a lot of different strategy out there. So I won't get in too much into the weeds, but yeah, there's a lot of different things depending on the strategy. So even too, do you have the time to do the flip? Is it going to be worth it? Your time is valuable too. So do you have the time to do something like that? And so we kind of start with an assessment of what do you have? What are you looking to do? And then we try to find an opportunity or find a strategy that's going to work for you and your needs and where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got 3 more questions for you, Mike. And the first has to do with something you just finished talking about, and that's the value of partnering. But I also wanted to ask you about the importance of doing your research when you want to partner with another person, because, once you put all that money on the line, you want to make sure that the partner that you've invested in is equally as invested. So tell me about the importance of sort of doing your research when you want to partner with someone.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of one of the quotes that I tend to bring up a lot and live by is if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so I really believe that working with others is going to be, for me at least, the most enriching, because I don't like doing things by myself. I like working with people. That being said, life is messy and people are messy at times. And so the people that you are choosing to work with, so I think about my real estate career as it really is just a network of relationships, right? If I want to help somebody buy a house, that's a relationship. If I keep that relationship with them, maybe they'll buy another house in the future. If I work with a lender on a deal, that's a relationship. If I find a good property manager, that's a relationship. And so I'm constantly looking at the relationships that I'm building to see how can I connect people to help people more. And so, I think it's important to kind of take an assessment of that, where you're at with your relationships, and then what relationships can I build to help me get where I'm going. Where was I at on your question? You want to, I forget.
I just wanted to know about the importance of doing research and
research.
The people you partner with. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So research. So I tell people that relationships take time, right? And so if I'm kind of going back to that time, money, expertise evaluation, if I'm going to partner with somebody right out of the gate, I probably have to know them well or have worked with them in the past. Maybe it's a past friend, past family member, that I at least know who they are, and there's not going to be any surprises on that. That's another reason why we have contracts, right? Contracts spell out who's doing what. And so we have a partnership deal that we did with an investor, and we kind of spelled out what is everybody's role in this organization here, who's doing what. Let's have clarity on that. And then 2, what happens if something happens, right? And so in these agreements, it's, well, what if we need more money? What happens upon the sale? And so I think it's good to talk through those things. And we've kind of, the people that we work with, we operate like we're generally here to help each other, right? Like we know you're not trying to screw us over. We're not trying to screw you over. And at the same time, having a contract helps to spell out the roles and the responsibilities. And so I would say, if it's somebody that you've worked with in the past and well, fantastic. And let's have a conversation and talk about who's doing what's the roles. And then in terms of the deal, how is the work being divided up? And then how is the money being divided up? And then what happens upon the sale or the profits or the cash flows? So I do think you have to be open about it, right? And you've got to work with people that hopefully you've had a relationship with in the past. Hopefully they still want to be around you. And for somebody like me that works with investors a lot, like I have to bear responsibility for helping them find a good property. Or if they're investing in a deal with me, I have to help them make money in the deal, because if they don't make money, they're not going to want to work with me again. So it is messy, but I think having those conversations up front and talking about those what if scenarios up front is really helpful to spell out what are we going to do, who's going to contribute what, and then what happens afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Mike, we have the same synergy when it comes to networking. There's a sign in my office upstairs that says life is a constant game of networking. And Mike, as a motivational speaker, one of the things I love to do is cultivate and build relationships. So I'm going to ask you to put a bow on the importance of building relationships, because I think they're the real lifeblood to any sort of entrepreneurship. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think too, I think about relationships as, I kind of going back to I like collecting things, right? I collected memorabilia, I collected sports cards. Like I'm collecting these relationships because I don't know what the future is going to hold. So even doing a podcast, right? I'm collecting a relationship. Kevin, you and I may decide to do something together in the future, or you may know somebody that I can help in the future. I may know somebody that you can help in the future. And so I'm constantly looking to connect with new people because I don't know what those relationships might mean in the future. I had a person reach out to me that lives in another state and asking more about investing. And I said, well, maybe I can help you, maybe I can't, or maybe I can find somebody that can help you. And so I think relationships are something you always want to be finding new people, you always want to be working on, and you always want to be strengthening those relationships. How can I help add value to you in your situation? And then maybe sometime down the road, there's value that can be added to me. But I want to be a connector. I would love if somebody came to me is like, here's my problem. And I say, oh, go talk to that person. That's the person you need to talk to. And I think my wife is a therapist. I should add that. She's a therapist. So we talk about relationships and conversations all the time, and just the value of the people that we're around and the people that we work with, of how can I help lift other people up? It's really important.
Yeah. And Mike, the final question I have for you this afternoon has to do with your own individual and personal and professional legacy and how you want that to be defined.
Yeah, I think for me, I want people to know how much I truly care for them. I really want what's best for them and how I help people. And so what I would love to see happen is, somebody, let's just say real estate as an example. Now, there's so much of my life outside of real estate that we haven't talked about that's cool stuff. But even inside of real estate, to say, I didn't know what I was going to do financially, or I didn't know what I was going to do from an investment standpoint, but Mike really helped me out. He helped me find a great property, or he helped introduce me to a great person. And through that, we were able to accomplish our goals. And because of that, now here's where we're at. We never could imagine the future we had because of how Mike helped us. And so I view me as kind of a vehicle for people's success. If I can help you get on your path from where you're at to where you want to go, if I could have a part in your journey because I cared about you, I cared about your future, and I added some value along the way, that's what I want to be known for down the road, is somebody who helped them accomplish their goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And since you brought it up, my friend, outside of real estate, I'm wondering, what's your why in life? What gets you up in the morning and really passionate about living life?
Yeah, for me, it's my family. I've got 3 boys and a great wife, and tonight in a couple hours from now, I'm going to coach a baseball game, or I'm going to coach a practice. I get a chance to be around my son and his baseball team, and same thing, help those kids. When I'm throwing them batting practice, I ask them, how is your day today? I try to make a little joke to put a smile on their face. And so for me, it's about my family and my wife. I want my kids to see how hard dad worked to help them be successful, how I sacrificed to help them get what they wanted out of life, and hopefully inspired them to take the next step in their journey. You know, the lessons that I've learned in my life, maybe I give them a leg up from where I started. But it's really about my wife and my kids, and I want to do anything that I can to help them be happy, help them achieve what they want in life. And so that really is my why, is my wife and my 3 boys and my extended family.
Absolutely. Well, I was just going to say, being a dad is going to be the most important job you'll ever have, right?
Yep. There's a past coworker of mine that runs a podcast that talks about being a good dad. And there's a quote that says, you know, if I could be an awesome dad and an average worker, I'd rather have that than to be an awesome worker and an average dad. And so, you know, I constantly think through, you know, I feel like I sacrifice a lot, but at the same time, there's so much more that I could do to be a better parent and a better husband. And so I'm always looking for ways that I can be a better parent and husband, because my mind tends to think about business a lot or real estate a lot. But I'd rather be known as a better husband and dad than I was a business person.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, Mike, tell me if people want to get connected with you personally or the good work that you do in real estate, what's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, so I mentioned, you know, the podcast Real Freedom. So that's REL Freedom, Real Estate Leverage Freedom. So you can go to relfreedom.com. I also do a mastermind for real estate agents, helping them become investors, helping them to work with investors. You can find it on that website, but I have a URL, agentinvestormastermind.com, that they can go to. Participate in that, add value to that community. That would be great. And then my contact information is spread out on the site there. You can reach out to me. But I'm 100% honest. If there's any questions people have in real estate, if you want to know how to get started, if you live in another city, another state, or another country, right? In Canada, I've interviewed a lot of Canadians on my podcast. Actually, the episode coming out today, as of this recording, is a Canadian real estate agent. But no matter where you're at, I want to try to connect you to somebody that can help you. So just reach out to me in any way, any question you have as it relates to real estate, and I'll try to find somebody closer to you or somebody that can help you in your situation, because I want to try to break down those barriers that people have for, I can't do investing in real estate because of XYZ. Whatever that XYZ is, reach out to me and tell me, and I'll try to find a way to connect you or get the ball rolling for you.
Well, fabulous, Mike. I want to thank you for spending a few minutes with me and talking about how we build wealth through generational real estate. I want to thank you for your work in the space and time on my behalf, and for being here this afternoon. It's most appreciated.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate the opportunity to connect with you and your listeners.